Welcome. So today we're going to take a look at how to work with fear in headstand. And we're going to include some grounding practices within that. So I have some props today. I have a chair, I have a stool and a block. But these can be, you'll see what you need them for later. They can be substituted. And I also have a wall slash. In this case, it's a window. And I have my trusty mat, and we're going to use the wall. This is presupposing you already have some shoulder strength. You've been practicing yoga. You're pretty good with dolphin, downward facing dog, these half inversions. But when it comes to actually shifting the weight over, you start to get into a panic. And this is quite common. You're not alone. And today we're going to take a look at how we can slowly tilt the world upside down, as opposed to, if you kick up or someone helps you up, it can feel quite sudden. So we're going to try to introduce tiny steps, gradual exposure. So the grounding tools we'll be using are feeling the floor. So normally when you're anxious, energy starts to go upward. So we're going to do the opposite. We're going to bring the energy down. Normally we're standing. In this situation, my foundation, what I feel touching the floor, my shins, my feet, and already bringing my awareness down, where it's going to help me move the energy back down. However, when we're upside down, when we normally ground, we think feet, but when we ground in our handstand, we need to ground through the wrists, the forearms, and the elbows. So that's sort of a switch need to make. Grounding comes through pressing the elbows and the forearms into the ground. So we'll work with that. And we'll also work with 3 things I see or 3 things I hear. You might have done this before when you're anxious and it's hard for you to orient yourself. You can actually just in your head or out loud mention 3 things you see. So in this case, I see the camera that I'm speaking into. I see the light and I see my yoga mat. For example, you can do the same thing with things you hear. It's kind of quiet now, but maybe you practice somewhere where there's music, there's TV in the background. You can also do the same things with what you feel, what you taste. It's a bit harder. Maybe you smell some different things. So these are tools that you can ground yourselves with. Probably when we're upside down, what we see is the easiest, and the sensation comes into play by grounding through the forearms. Okay. So let's assume you're slightly warmed up and you've done a few dolphin poses, etc., and you feel ready to play with this. Okay. The reason I have these 3 props is that we'll gradually go up. So let's just get into a dolphin pose at the wall. So I'm grounding my forearms. Let's say I'm pretty close to the wall, but not completely touching the wall, maybe like half a hand away from the wall. I'm interlacing my fingers. I'm pressing the wrists into the ground, pressing the forearms into the ground, elbows into the ground. And here already I say, what am I touching? Where is the floor? I'm pressing through my forearms. I'm grounding through my forearms. Then I release the crown of the head into the ground, tuck my toes under, and come forward. Good. This is all I do for a moment, and I just breathe here. I'm reminding myself, I'm grounding through the forearms, slightly through the crown of the head. What are 3 things I see here? So I'm actually using my senses upside down as opposed to just panning here. So here I can see the cupboards behind me. I see the chair. And again, I see the light. Good. And then I come down. I rest. Resting in between. Very, very important. And just let everything sort of sink in. Good. We're going to do the same thing with the block. Ideally, you have 2 blocks. I can't find my other block. So we're just going to use this. And I'm assuming my feet are going to be here. So I'm just tilting my feet up slightly. So there's a bit more weight in my forearms and in my head. And I'm going to repeat the same thing. Again, half a hand distant away from the wall. Grounding through my hands,
head comes down, and then go into my headstand prep. And now my feet are on the ground or on the block, and there's a bit more of the shift of my bum going over the wrist. I still press into my forearm. This is where my energy presses into the floor. That's where the energy sort of goes into the ground. Again, I see three things. I see the block here, I see my toes, and I see the yoga mat. Good. Smooth, deep breaths. And then I come back down. Block is conveniently placed for me to come into Virasana. I just chill. All right. And maybe that's enough for you today. Maybe you're like, wow, just stepping up on the block, shifted the weight into my forearms, and that was really enough for me today. So, titrating the things nice and slowly. Good. And now let's see what happens if we put our feet up on the stool. Good. So same thing. Maybe the entry is a little bit awkward. You have to see how you can do it. Again, half a distance away. Elbows really shoulder width distance apart so I can press. This is my foundation. Yeah, I feel strong in my hands. Crown of the head comes down. I pop up onto my hands and then maybe feet onto the stool. And then, oh, my bum is now almost all the way up on my foundation. I'm pressing the wrist down into the ground. And maybe I hear three things now. If I listen, I hear the buzzing of the fridge. I hear my breath going like, and I hear someone in the other room clearing their throat. Okay. Down, down. Okay. Resting, resting. Good. Wow. Okay, so as you could see, without me having to jump or anything, my bum was almost really lined on top of my wrists, my foundation. And I was pretty close to a headstand. So now, if you feel ready to go to the next step, if you want to take a break, go ahead, take a break. I can now place a chair or something that's a little bit higher I can put my feet up on to see how it feels like now. Let's see if I can come into it. Again, half a hand distance away from the wall, pressing my foundation fiercely through the inner wrists, through the inner forearms, and then crown of the head just gently, lightly rests on the floor. Good. Maybe one foot, maybe press down, maybe the other foot. And you can sort of regulate here. The more you bend your knees, the bum is going to shift away from the wall. And the more you extend, the more the bum is going to shift onto the crown of the head. And now I'm basically, I could, I'm in a headstand here, but I still have the ground. And I look around me, my foundation are my forearms. That's where I can release my fear into the ground. And I look around. Maybe three things I feel right now. I feel my hair in my hands. I feel the clothing is pretty tight. And obviously I feel the floor underneath me. Good. And then coming down. And then even before you come all the way up, you were already in a headstand. If you were here, you are in a headstand. We also need to stop thinking in postures in black and white. There's not headstand and there's not headstands. There's gradients of headstand. Once you're in a headstand, you can stay there for half a second. You can stay there for 20 minutes. And once you're in a headstand, there's different leg variations. There's different ways of entering. There's different ways of exiting. It's all part of headstand. And this journey is a headstand. So, giving yourself a tap on the shoulder. And first of all, if you come up, there's a difference between staying in headstand and balancing a headstand. So at first, especially if you're dealing with fear, no need to balance at all. Yeah. So next step, we're just going to go up we'll have the support of the wall and we'll just stay there and breathe. Good. Let's do that and then we'll close this little exploration. Fingertips interlaced, pressing the elbows down. Again, this is my fears foundation. I can't stand here. Good. Nothing can happen to me. Toes tucked under. And if already here you feel like, oh, what do I see? Maybe bend one knee. The wall is there. Yay! So there's the wall. Here's the chair. I can always come down. There's the wall. There's the chair. And if I wanted to, I press into my elbows to come up. Oh, there's a plant there. Good. Nice. And you can just breathe here. If you want to extend the legs, you can extend the legs. They're probably not visible in the video. You can also keep the knees bent. Stay nice and small. Good. Just being here looking at the world upside down. If I wanted to come out, the chair's there. Good. And again, I see the little stool. I see the kitchen. I see a little balloon over there. And this is my foundation. When I come out, one foot to chair, both feet to chair. Slowly, slowly. Good. Okay. And then again, staying in child's pose in theory to counter, which I forgot. And then slowly coming out. Good. I hope this has helped. Let me know if I'm overseeing something, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you.